Sprayed the park and had my shit inside the car. Marcus Smart boy was shooting with a 36 on me. Said if he wasn't in the rush, they was all gone. Said cursive on the chest, he was gonna show him John.
Greetings, Chudlings. Welcome to another episode of Chuddy's Corner. It's November 12th. We just witnessed the Celtics lose a heartbreaker in their NBA Cup opener, 117-116 to a very pesky Hawks team without Trae Young. I'm your host, King Chuddy, and joining me tonight, we got a special guest, longtime listener and friend of the show, but first time on the show, Merrimack legend, Joe Clancy. Joe, sorry we couldn't have you on after a win, but we're very thrilled to have you joining us. How are we doing?
Yeah, good. I mean, honestly, I picked the 20% of games that we actually lose, especially with something on the line with the NBA Cup. But thrilled to be on. Big fan of the show, as you know. I think I was pretty dominant in my voicemails last season, and I feel like I earned this one. So,
absolutely.
Long time listener, even pre
before we were recording.
Okay.
Before we were recording, he was listening.
Oh yeah, awesome. Absolutely.
Awesome. So yeah, let's dig right into it. I mean, tough loss. It felt like the Celtics had this game, had a lot of chances to put them away, especially in the third quarter. It felt like they were multiple possessions where they could have hit a dagger, it just wasn't meant to be. The Hawks just kept fighting, would not go away. Very, very pesky, especially on the defensive end, getting their hands on everything. And they just kept battling. And I think the Celtics had thought and eventually they were just going to cave and we would kind of take this over. And we did not. And credit to the Hawks, came back, and Onyeka Okongwu with a tip-in offensive rebound, the killer all night. It was very fitting. He had a tip back off of Dyson Daniels' miss to give the Hawks a 1-point lead. And then Jaylen Brown's elbow jumper at the buzzer would not go. Tough loss. 0-1 now in NBA Cup group play. So it's going to be an uphill battle now to make it. Tough to see. What's your takeaway watching this one?
Yeah. Honestly, it felt like halfway through the third, just massive give up on our end. Got sloppy, got stagnant on offense. It felt like early on the offensive rebounds weren't going to be a problem because they were just sort of long misses. It wasn't like we were getting out hustled. Didn't feel like that at least, to some extent. On the offensive side, we gave up some sloppy pick and roll defense. Right. It stunk, obviously to spoil sort of Jalen's hopefully coming out, party for this year. And D White obviously had a huge fourth quarter. Just, was a shitty way to lose the first, cup game too. Because I was hoping for a little bit of movement there. So not a great night, obviously.
No, certainly not. And like you alluded to, 20 offensive rebound for the Hawks, just an absurd number. And I was kind of with you at first. It was like, long rebound here, lucky bounce there, tough break here. But at the end of the day, 20-6 in offensive rebounds, no matter how you spin it, that's just insane. 68 points in the paint to 32 for the Hawks, 18-7 in second chance points. That's kind of what it was. And then the other crazy stat, 16 steals. We had 20 turnovers, 16 of them steals by the Hawks. A lot of it sloppiness on our end, but a lot of it really good defense by the Hawks too. I have to say, coming into the game, as soon as it started, I didn't think it was like a good enough recipe for them to win, but I'm kind of intrigued by the Hawks without Trae Young. I think that threw us for a little bit of a loop just because their team is so Trae Young centric that finding out kind of last minute Trae Young's not playing, it's like, okay, that's like their entire offensive identity. So it's like, well, what do we even do they're playing Keaton Wallace, a name who even I had to dig into my database to see who the hell is Keaton Wallace getting the start. He's like a fourth year player on a 2-way contract out of UTSA. And this was I think his first career start. So I didn't feel as bad that I couldn't place him, but that gives you the idea. It was Jalen Johnson, a player I really like, who ended up recording a triple-double. He was great. Dyson Daniels, who they brought over in the DeJounte Murray trade, was unbelievable. Probably the game of his life, honestly. But the defense is legit. The offense, impressive. The defense, I think, is legit. And he did have a great game, but Zachary Risichet, the number 1 overall pick, who kind of got made fun of, I have liked what I've seen from him quietly after a slow start. I think he's a player. So kind of those three with either Capella or Okongwu banging down low, and suddenly they don't have the ball stopper that is Trae Young. It's not just everyone standing around watching him. and it's not playing 4-on-5 on defense. So I don't think it's like a sustainable long-term goal, But for a one night, one off game, it's like, damn, they're pretty tough.
Well, they looked like the Warriors looked like, and the Cavs obviously have been. They're more well-rounded, right? But
Yeah.
the Nets are definitely pesky, right? From that regard. So
Yeah.
it felt like that same game. I
Mhm.
mean, Daniels is at one point they talked about his last 2 games. He was the
Unbelievable.
first person to ever have 7 steals.
3 in a row.
Three in a row.
6 steals. 3 games in a row, 6
Insane.
steals is preposterous. And they mentioned it during the broadcast, but I had the stat before the game. He was leads the league in deflections and he's averaging like 7 deflections a game, and second in the league was like 4 a game.
Right. Insane.
And it's like one of those things where you hear it and you're probably like, that's just so like insane and stupid of a stat. But you watch it and it's so noticeable. It's like he gets his hands on everything. And if the Celtics just take their, focus off, again, it looked sloppy, but I think it was more him and them making us look sloppy than us really doing anything that you're not used to on a typical NBA night. But it's like you don't fully engage on making sure that pass is good, a tiny bit sloppy, and he was right there. And those guys all have a ton of length, super athletic. And it's like fun to watch. It's kind of funny. And again, I think over the long term, and if you were kind of game planning for that squad, they probably need more offense without Trae Young. But man, if they didn't blow all those picks getting DeJounte Murray in the first time around, I'd say like trade Trae Young, tank, and I kind of like that young nucleus.
Yeah, I mean to have those numbers, the deflections, obviously the turnovers just from steals, and it's not like they're playing sitting in zone, right? Like it's not like the Joey Gallo Merrimack defense where like you see those steal numbers, of course, because those guys are playing out in the perimeter, getting in passing lanes. Like it was disruptive. And then, again, even when we had some times where that may have slowed down and we got into our sets, like it just felt slow. It felt stagnant. Like I think the last, hot potato offensive play was like the second quarter. Tatum missed a corner 3, but it was like that was the last quintessential Celtics offensive possession of the game. It felt like, and then obviously towards the end they got a couple more and
they turned it on.
But they were just they were matching at that point. It was like he's still got to get a stop. Like at some point with the Bucks game, they turned it on. They said we're going to get stops. They decided to. They got them. Didn't happen tonight. So
they did it way too late. I think they tried to turn the switch and it was too late. And again, I think. And there's one game in a one-off game in the regular season. I know it's the NBA Cup, but it's schedule-wise, a one-off regular season game, and you just find out there's no Trae Young. It's not like you're practicing and game planning. So I honestly think coming in, like we've never seen this version of Dyson Daniels. We've not seen a lot of Jalen Johnson being like the actual fulcrum of an NBA offense. He looked great doing it, but again, last year, even when there was no Trae Young, they had DeJounte Murray. So it was like they always had a very ball-dominant point guard. Tonight, there was times I looked around, I'm like, I don't know which player you would say is the point guard. And it was just a very like diverse offense where like it was like, who do we focus our attention on? There was no clear answer, and they kind of all played really well, shared the ball. And it's easy for us to say we don't watch them every night, but I'm sure Hawks fans were watching this being like, this is kind of a breath of fresh air, not just watching Trae Young dribble the hell out of the ball for 20 seconds and either shoot it or, Trae Young's great. I'm not a Trae Young hater. I think if anything, he's probably a little underrated at this point. But man, after watching a game like this, there's got to be some Hawks fans like let these kids flap their wings, no pun intended. Take off the shackles of making them just stand in the corner and watch Trae.
The faceless offense, right? Like it just felt like whoever had the ball was going into the same action,
right?
And I felt like the Celtics were sloppy on the pick and roll. Like Kata plays tall, he does. I think
he's always sloppy.
Yeah, and he's built thicker than a time where like he can be a little bit more physical. He can be playing with his elbows more. And he's sort of just playing tall, which is again within the rules there, and you're not going to get called against as much. But I just feel like from his standpoint and Al's, like you can't look at the stats tonight with Capella, with Agonquo, however you say his name. Like those guys were banging on the boards, obviously the offensive rebounds, but putting them back up for points too. I mean, they both had, what was it, 17, and it was just, from that regard, it just didn't look like something that was sustainable for us to win that game.
Clint Capella is not like any great shakes, but he is just a true old-fashioned center who's down there, and if you don't put a body on him and work your ass off to finish the rebound, he will get 20 rebounds on you even to this day. And this is the first night I feel like where Kate has been a heavy part of the rotation, where he's gone against two like true professional centers. He's been playing, the Nets, good team, but it's like everyone on that team is a wing. They play a little bit of Claxton, and even he's like not your conventional big. So
Right.
you kind of saw tonight him trying to match up. Yeah, right. Tonight you saw true centers against Keita, and he did struggle a bit. And that's again, it's tough to pin it on Keita because he's really the only backup big giving us much of anything. Al didn't give us a ton down low, and Keita, I mean, he had a couple incredible block shots. So
as he always does. I mean, he is.
Right.
It's just now we want more out of that. Like he can be that. He can be that. He doesn't have to be just the guy behind Horford. Like he can.
It's
be
almost funny that we're starting off. The first thing we're doing is like critiquing Keita, a guy who was a complete afterthought. Like a week and a half ago, we were like, he's never going to see the floor, and now he's like a consistent 20 minutes a game night, and we're like, we got to see more. Like, what are we doing here? So
I mean, Thanksgiving yet, we're already buying our 88 jerseys and expecting the most. Again, when we're at, when we're playing that good, and we're rolling through teams, which we have most of, the season even to this point, it becomes like, where can we get better? And it has, those guys are the ones that have to step up. I think JB, JT, even Drew. Like I don't even care if he's going slow motion a little bit. I'm not, but I could care less. Like I want him. Right. I know where he's going to be at the end, but where can we see some improvement from guys like 88 and obviously like
Walshy. Guys like Walshy was back in the rotation tonight, getting some minutes, and it's not like any of these guys look bad. I just thought we didn't. Pritchard made a few shots, but we didn't really get that like usual burst from him. There was no like Hauser burst. Horford, I mean, hit a few threes and stuff, but it was really felt like it was just White, Brown, and Tatum tonight.
I know,
especially which is going to happen. And again, we had the game the entire way until the last 10 seconds. So
I don't know if Tatum had a fourth quarter field goal. I didn't see. I had like the stats. I don't have like the breaking down my quarter, but
he may not.
Didn't feel like. And again, that
several
shot
assists.
was halfway down. So
he did seem like he might have rolled his ankle at one point.
Yeah.
So not making excuses, but I mean, I think
and then he had a lane and he sped up, and I was like, all right, he's not as hurt. He wants those points, but usually when that play slows down, that ankle swells up a little bit. You never know. So
right. And another thing too, I think we've come so basically just accustomed to Tatum doing everything and being an Iron Man on both ends of the court and guarding centers and everything. But again, you see him battling down there with Capella, and you're like, that's a lot to ask from your All NBA, forward on a Tuesday night in November to be like going banging with Clint Capella for 20, even 15, 20 minutes a night. Like that's a big ask. And there are not a lot of superstar two-way wing players in the NBA doing that.
No. And he is. I mean, again, I get no qualms. I don't ride the roller coaster with those guys for sure.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like at this time, what's beating us right now is just that pesky, what we've seen from, again, the Warriors. We obviously saw it tonight.
Yeah.
I think this team was, again, one of those things where you saw 16, given 16 points.
Yeah.
You weren't sure if that was even before or after Trae Young. I'm like, is that, okay, so it's going to be 20. I might as well get this now. And of course I didn't take that one home. So.
Yeah. And I mean, the first possession of the game there, it was 0-0, and Scal and Drew are like, I'm curious to see if we'll try to like run it up tonight or not. Like it hasn't even started, and I get it. I'm not even like really ripping on them. It was hard not to think. It's like, oh, NBA Cups here, point differential, playing the Hawks, no Trae Young. Let's see how much we can win by. And it just felt like from the opening tip, like that was kind of our mindset, and theirs was like, no Trae Young tonight. This is all of our chance. This is like, we've said every team we play all year, it's going to be their Super Bowl for the and the Hawks are no different. And especially a team like that with no Trae Young, all of these guys want to show what they've got and take it up against the champs. And we absolutely got their best shot for 48 minutes. And I'd say we only gave them our best shot for like 5 or 6 minutes. And in the NBA, when you do that, it's enough a lot of times for us. I think we'll win a lot of games that way, frustratingly, but tonight, they were just better and they deserve this. And yeah, we played sloppy, obviously this, that, and the other. But overall, like I'd say the Hawks went out and won that game and took it from us more than we just blew it.
Right. Agreed. I mean, again, it felt like just early on, nobody was shooting well. At one point, it was like both were shooting at least 23% from three. But they were just getting, the rebounds. And this is when we had a lead, so it didn't feel like it was an issue. And then all of a sudden, it was just stagnant offense timed up with goddamn Larry Nance Jr. of all people. God. Like what we
5 of 6 threes or something. And the ball kept finding him too. That offensive rebound on that last one he hit. Oh my God. Painful to get it. And that's the thing. It's like all these guys, you're like, I didn't know they could do that. I mean, Larry Nance is a little different, but again, most of these guys are under Trae Young's shadow. And it's like, Who knew Jalen Johnson could go out there and just get a nice casual triple-double? Who knew Dyson Daniels could score 27 points? Like,
most unassuming triple-double too. It was as you're seeing the stats rack up, you're like,
completely
oh,
balanced.
but he was effective, and he does a lot of things too. I mean, I think I didn't watch him much before the Hawks are not on my radar. I'll
He's
be
a
honest.
dookie, come on.
I know, but Duke these days is not like I don't have a 4-year Greg Paulus and he goes off to Syracuse and plays quarterback.
No, he did not have that kind of career at Duke, that's for sure.
No.
No, I know, but I mean, I thought he was a really good player. I was sounding crazy trying to talk up this Hawks team earlier in the season, but it is funny. They're in such a weird way because they don't have any other picks. The Spurs have all their picks. I think for the next 3 years, they don't have a pick. So they can't really tank even if they want to. But they're just so stuck. Like you can tell just by this glimpse tonight watching, like those guys need to play more. They need to lean into these young two-way wings. Like that could be something. You just drafted this one kid, number 1. Johnson looks like he's got, borderline star potential, and Daniels at the very least looks like he could be like an all defensive player with decent offensive game. So, I mean, lean into that. I've always liked Okongwu. It's just, I don't know, like they're kind of stuck. Can they trade Trae? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out like there has to be a big piece there. If it's not Trae, it's got to be, who do you return there? I mean,
I don't know.
And I don't know the guys that are coming up, but like,
it seems like they had like someone.
The team that is like the Cavs are again short. Again, it's not even Thanksgiving, but like their best scenario is playing like the Cavs consistently and getting a guy like Donovan Mitchell who can do a lot of things. He can play defense. Who's got high energy. He's not going to be just one facet of the game. He's very good at.
Right.
And try to get a guy like that. And Trae's again, I'm not a Trae hater either. He's a bit one dimensional, and it's hard to build around him when.
I don't know that he can be your best player. I think you need to build a very specific system for him that has like almost like the inverse of him, like a Rudy Gobert underneath. So it's like you get a DH on defense and Trae's your DH on offense. But it's tough. It's tough when he's that good. But it feels like if they swapped out Trae for a player who was like similar good. I'm not saying like they need a much better, maybe Jimmy, someone like Jimmy
kind of fits the mold of those guys. He's
I think that's great. I don't know if the Hawks would do it, but honestly, why not? And I think Miami could convince themselves that they could turn Trae into the next star with their heat culture or whatever they're smoking down there.
Right.
That I actually like. That has some legs. The guy I was going to mention who I think would be a great fit, I don't anticipate him being available anytime soon, but someone like a Devin Booker, who's like still can carry their offense, but is not nearly as ball dominant and can be like won't kill their defense at least. Like just someone like that, just a slight tweak, like because you could tell watching them tonight. It's like, okay, they still need a true like go-to guy on offense, at least for now. I mean, maybe one of those guys could take another leap even and become that, but just one like go-to guy who's not crushing them on defense, and you can see the makings of a decent little team in there.
And Book's good off the ball too, like coming off picks at that elbow, and
he doesn't need to have.
He's got that mid-range game, which like again, this crew, it's a rugged crew. So like you'd think like a guy like that plug him in. It's like, Trae doesn't fit even the DNA of like what we saw tonight. It was tough. It was second effort. It was Larry Nance probably hates Trae. I imagine like he was like finally see the ball in the corner, bang.
Definitely.
And he was a DNP if scout on the broadcast. Like he wasn't even playing a week ago. So.
I would be curious to see how many of those guys set their season high in field goal attempts tonight, because Nance had 10 attempts, Okongwu at 11, Daniels 21, Keaton Wallace 13, Capella 11, Risa Shea 13, Johnson 17. Like, there's no way all those guys are getting close to that many shots if Trae Young is playing. So, and they won. So in Boston, I'm sure they're all thrilled. And Trae maybe like
Larry Nance averages 5 field goals attempts a game.
Yeah.
He's shooting 70% from the field this year. He's 3.5 for 5.
And he made 5 threes tonight. Like,
in the third quarter and on.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of it is just shit happens, obviously. And that's one I'm sure I didn't hear Missoula's press conference. It's probably happening now, but I'm sure he's in there saying we'll live with that percentage. But I think on the Nance thing, he's like, we'll live with that every night. We'll give him 6 open threes and live with the results. And he'll say next time he'll go 1 of 6 and we'll win. And he's probably right.
And I heard you guys talking about like him manufacturing something to maybe he was like, oh, these guys are finally jacked up. I'm gonna get them all jacked up from the NBA Cup, and then I'm gonna put out the worst game plan of Magnum. And we're just gonna lose, and they're gonna be fired up for the rest of the year. They're gonna be, they might lose 5 more games the rest of the year. So
yeah, perhaps. You never know with Joe. He's just kind of a savage. One interesting thing with his coaching tonight, it didn't become kind of got lost in the shuffle once the end of the game, but I thought it was interesting. First time I can ever remember in a regular season game leaving in both of the Jays for the entire first quarter and going with the 3 bench, 2 Jays lineup to close the quarter, and then going neither Jay for like the first 6 minutes of the second quarter. Interesting. Again, I'm all about the experimentation. Didn't do it again in the second half. I wonder what the reason, if any, was. Not maybe just to inject some chaos into things. But I'm all about the tinkering, the experimenting. I think it keeps things fun, especially for fans and podcasters who have to talk about every game with the Celtics team. It's like they're almost such a machine. It's hard to find stuff, but that certainly caught my eye.
Yeah, I mean, it's something where I think the first subs, what do you do in the first quarter versus the third quarter is different. Like he might have just, it might be game plan specific in the first.
Yeah.
Third might be just changes and trying to adapt there. But I like it. I mean, again, I like to spread them out as much as I can. I also think the reason we took the next step last year was those guys played so well off each other versus just being like, okay, your turn, my turn. So I'm good with it. If that's something that is just a wrinkle and he's just saying again, screw it. It's November 12th. Let's go ahead and just try something new. Good.
Yeah.
If he thinks there's something there based off of just trying to get JB going first game, like he was our hard start guy. He had a good first 5 minutes, got a little cold there. I'm glad he kind of like let him shoot through a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, it was an efficient game from that standpoint from JB. Like he wasn't chucking up threes. He was getting twos. He was going to the paint, a little sloppy with the ball at times. But, we need to get him going, I think, as well, just because like after a hip injury, you think about explosion, you just think about trusting that thing. I think now he probably feels like, all right, I'm good. Let's get back to him.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned earlier too how we saw it tonight, and it seems like it's been a theme of a lot of teams, especially good teams we play, who come into the game with an approach of like they want to get physical with us, they want to take it to us, and you can tell the Hawks tonight where like we are going to be as physical as shit with you guys, and if we get called for a ton of fouls, like so be it. And Jalen's kind of our guy who's like the big strong bully who will match it, and you saw him doing it down the stretch, like he was just getting in there and finishing, getting to the basket, getting to the free throw line, or making shots. And it's cool to see. And like you said, it's definitely something that's been missing. And we're, such a luxury of riches that sometimes we miss him and it's like, you don't even notice he's out. But on a night like tonight, it was like good to have him back, and that great performance, like you said, 37 points out of him and kind of doing a little bit of everything. I think he had 14, maybe even more in the first quarter. So that was like the Jalen of last year coming out being Mr. First quarter. He was great. I thought good all around, if not great scoring game from Tatum. And then Derek White, my God, kept us in the game with some of, like you mentioned, some of those fourth quarter possessions especially weren't pretty, but it was like, as long as it's ending up in White's hands, he could not miss. Wouldn't have hated getting him a look in the final minutes. I know it's kind of like easier said than done. It's not really our style to just like give White the ball and be like, go make a shot. But he kept us in the game, really. And if we did win this, which it looked like we were going to, it was going to be mostly due to his heroics. He had 7 of 12 on threes. It's just crazy on a night where, at least from 3-point range, nobody else really had it. They were talking a lot about the court, the ball. I mean, I don't know how much stock you want to put in. Scal said it so much. Drew was like, all right, enough about the ball. Like, so. But yeah, in the first quarter, some of those shots did look like way off.
Yeah, I mean, I think Derek White had an air ball and he was basically hitting nothing but net for most of the game. So, and again, like it's so particular. A basketball, it's already shooting in an arena is already difficult. Versus just the different the court there. But yeah, I think the third quarter, D-White was a little bit at the center of like us getting stagnant. I think he had like back-to-back turnovers. It looked bad. Then he comes back, hits a 3, and obviously a huge fourth quarter. He's so money. He's so confident. When he's playing like confident, which I never understand why he's not confident. He's such a fucking stud.
I wouldn't say it's confident so much as maybe aggression.
Yeah. And that's where it's like there's time. And aggression can be still hitting threes. Like I don't need him driving to the paint and looking for that next shot. But like you can see when he's pulling the trigger quickly. I think when we try to like come off picks and we're looking for the angle, we're slowing down by the elbow is when like, that's more of a Drew thing. Like Derek White should just be going or step back 3 from that move. But he's such a game changer for us to, when he's there and he's putting, 37 points, 31 points on the board. It's, we got to win those games.
Definitely got to win those games. I thought it was interesting too. I think a reason that usually White is so money and so involved is because like it was almost weird to see a game where the Celtics could not really matchup hunt or pick on someone, especially the Hawks. It's usually the entire game plan. But at the end of the game, they were kind of like, I think Scal was like, who should we give it to? He's like, whoever Daniels isn't on. It's like, yeah, but like Johnson is big and long, and like Risache is too. And you got a Kongwo is like, can move well for a big, can switch a little bit. Obviously, like, it's like they don't really have like a weak link to go at here. And I think the Celtics have become absolutely clinical at matchup hunting.
No
Joe.
question.
And it's like how we generate advantages over and over and over again, seemingly against any team. But credit to them, like they didn't really let us do that. And I think it flummoxed us a little, and we were really not getting great looks. I know that one Tatum shot in the last minute could have gotten a better look, and I still don't know how that did not go in. Would have put us up by 4 with about 20 seconds left, rimmed out.
Huge.
And you know the rest. But other than that, like they really played very good defense, I thought, and it was tough to create advantages other than Jalen kind of just like deciding I'm gonna put my head down and just be stronger than you.
Yeah, it didn't feel like easy at any point, and that's where like a team like that, the Celtics make it look easy for 60-70% of the game most of the time, right? And like a challenge for a stretch, but even from the jump, we got out to that 13-point lead, but like that was still tough to break that. Like it was still tight in the first quarter the entire way. So again, credit to them. Again, not worried really on any fronts. Again, I want more physicality out of Keita. Everybody else, I know what they're going to give me at the right time. So it's like, what can we develop that we didn't have last year? It's really just Keita and just
Walsh.
continue to make Peyton Pritchard a huge part of the game.
Yeah.
Walsh, I know you love Walsh. I got a hard time with
Walsh. Him, but I just mean he, in terms of guys we can develop who we don't know, like he's playing real minutes. I mean, even tonight with both Jays out there, he got a legitimate run in the rotation. So I wasn't necessarily saying just in terms of guys who we can look to develop other than Keita. It's pretty much Keita.
This is the time last year where I thought, okay, like Hauser, sure, he's having these great nights. Like he may not be a factor in the playoffs. He was. He's getting putting Luka and Kyrie peeking him out, and he was just answering the bell. So that's where like that can change. But I don't know where there's even room for Walsh. Again, let's knock on wood for hopefully not having any room there. But
I mean, it's same with Keita. When we talk about this, like ideally everyone's healthy. None of these guys are playing in the playoffs. Like if Keita's playing in the playoffs, something's gone horribly wrong.
I know.
Other than a few minutes spurt here and there.
Yeah, just
But it's more in general just to have these moves in the chamber, and it might be 5 minutes of Walsh when we need to inject something into the game. And I always think back to like the PJ Brown minutes against the Lakers. I don't know, where he dusted him off, or even Sam Cassell, or even Eddie House, like Leon Poe, all these guys. And last year, when we would put in Tillman, he had some huge minutes in the playoffs. So it's just like having options, having guys ready, or even if it's just regular season innings eaters, like we're gonna need those too at a certain point. Like knock on wood, but Tatum, people are dropping like flies around the NBA injury wise.
I know.
Ideally, if we don't have to play Tatum and Brown 75 games for 40 minutes a night,
40 minutes a night. So that's where it's like difficult there. Hard not to take them out. Just, again, he was just a pleasant surprise this year. I'm excited to see what he does, night like tonight. Face two contenders. So I think this is a good test for him just to say like, okay, he's gonna face some dudes. Like he's gonna have to be chest to chest with Giannis and Embiid at one point. So get him ready for those games, because those guys will be coming at some point. Obviously, he's answered the bell to this point. So
it is, and it's a little weird to see that he really seemingly has just completely taken the role from Cornette and Tillman to a lesser extent. Like it's odd that
Tillman DNP tonight. I mean,
and that's been a theme lately. Cornette only 4 minutes, had the one quick stint, and at this point, I'm not sure you can even call it a matchup thing. It's been every night for like a week or so. It seems like Keita's just kind of taken that backup center role. Right. And I think, we need that athleticism, that rim protection, and that alley-oop finishing on offense that you aren't really getting as much from Cornette and Tillman. So I think that's part of it. But part of it, too, is a guy who can bring something different to the table, and Joe figuring, hey, let's, right now we can afford the growing pains. So
no question.
Cool. All right. Only other stuff really on this specific game. Hilarious moment at the end of the third quarter when 1.1 second left and we get the turnover. Pritchard checks in, The entire place is going crazy for Pritchard. They're denying him full court with a second left and basically forcing us to not go to Pritchard, which leads us to throwing in an inbound to the finals MVP who posted up on the block as the crowd's like booing.
Groaning.
Doesn't go to Pritchard.
Groaning.
Just I can't even think of like an analogous thing in sports to that whole scene. Absolutely,
he's a well-marked man in those moments now.
Right.
But the expectation is like he'll find a way open, and if he's 1-on-2, we like the shot. So
it's crazy. I was just
I was thinking of like after that, it's like that picture of LeBron when he's on the Cavs in between Ray, Pierce, Rondo, and Garnett. It's like 4-on-1. I'm like, that's essentially Peyton every time he gets the ball with 3 seconds left before the end of a period. So he's like a marked man in that regard. Cool.
Yeah, the Pritchard stuff. I feel like it started as almost like a joke, but like you said, now it's legitimate. He's checking in, and you can see Quinn Snyder immediately yelling at his guys and pointing, and like, that's it. Like, go get that guy right there. And they basically just like happy with us to instead throw full court passes to Brown and Tim are like over there, like whatever, and they're like, no, like face guard Pritchard and the opponent free throw line. Like
they'll settle with a 15
how did we get here?
An NBA Finals MVP who with a couple of those when a game's matter. I know it's great. I love that that's his niche too, because like he is like that like rugged guy for us, and he's been such a stud this year, but like he still has that role. Like he's not just a bench guy. Like he will drop 25 on you here and there, but he'll also always be the answer when there's a couple seconds left.
Absolutely unreal. So that was awesome. And then the only other thing, the kind of end of the game, the last minute. So this drives me crazy. We talk all the time. Going years back, I'm sure you've heard it about how like Scal is just way too obsessed with the 2-for-1, which I get generally. But at the end of game, there's 40 seconds left. We have the ball up 1, and he's saying you got to get a 2-for-1 here. I couldn't disagree more. I absolutely hate that logic. You're winning the game. Take all the time you want, get a good look, and you basically clinch the game. Rushing to make sure you get another shot with 5 seconds left is just so idiotic, and I can't believe he keeps saying this as if it's like just common knowledge and like fact. Like you have to do it. Not even up for debate. Just like you have to get a 2-for-1 here. I don't know. I don't know. We haven't talked about this, you and I specifically, but I don't know. To me, that just drives me crazy. And the Celtics didn't do it. They took the time. They got a great look, and that was Tatum wide open corner 3 that he missed with about 20 seconds left. But like that's what you do. They took the time. They ran a great set. They got a great look. If that ball is 1 more millimeter down, it goes in. We win the game. And the shot clock. And none of that matters. So I was glad to see how the Celtics did it. Hate how Scal keeps talking about it.
I know. Again, it's an analytics play. It's a law of averages play.
End of other quarters, yes. Fourth quarter is just like
exactly. That's what I'm saying, and that's where it's like who was like the Rays pitcher that they took out of the game with a no hitter in the 6th inning because he was going about to fit. Like it goes back to like that whole thinking. Yeah. Where it's like no, this is a moment where somebody can take over, or the game just means that it's just a different part of the game. So totally. I think they forced 2-for-1. Too much always. I think nobody's bought into the 2-for-1 more than Tatum. And again, Joe is obviously feeding him that. So like again, your coach is telling you that. Absolutely. I'm glad they didn't do it. Scal is obsessed with it. Drives me bananas because at that time, like my thought was like, get the best look imaginable, settle it down. We do have the better matchup across the board. Tonight they've been obviously very good, but like we'll have a Tatum shot, and that's where like it was ridiculous that he's pushing that at the end of the game where obviously we needed the best, bucket imaginable. Thought it was ridiculous, a ridiculous thing by Scal, certainly against it. Glad they ignored that and obviously went with a really solid play that, again, we wouldn't be talking about a loss, if that thing was one more inch down. So.
Yeah, no, well, I'm glad and not surprised that we're on the same page on that one. And I'm so shocked that no one has kind of pushed back in the 4th quarter where it's like, no, we need winning plays here. I don't care that we could get the ball back 5 seconds left. Like, just get a basket and it doesn't matter.
Top 3 defensive teams the last 3-4 seasons. Like, trust yourself to get it, to stop. I know
one stop against the Hawks. But
the Hawks, the Trae Young-less Hawks.
Right. And if we just secured a defensive rebound, we still would have won, even with not scoring or getting the 2-for-1. So
yeah, it was.
but also it's like the 2-for-1 whole thing is stupid because the Hawks, if they were losing, so it's not like they're gonna hold for one shot anyway.
Right.
Like they want to go as fast as they can because they would have been losing in that sense. So like the whole thing is just drives me crazy.
And I thought that they played that well. Like they did go quick enough.
Oh, it
They
worked
got a
great.
rebound. It was going to be how many exactly.
Yeah,
Plenty of time. Got the foul to give later, so it kind of halted us a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean they played that well. And again, I know I think he's a decent coach. Like they've given us fits even like the playoffs when we still obviously beat them well. It's like it hasn't been walkover series.
Yeah.
It's they've been tough. So I hate the guy's glasses, but Quincy can coach a little bit. So
he can, and I think you got to see it more tonight without Trae Young. He got to coach a little more. So I want to keep harping on the Trae Young thing. Yeah, we've probably beaten out into the ground. But anything else on this game?
No, I mean, again, more MO for Joe and just them to be a little more locked in, and we'll love to see like what they do in the next few cup games. But good to see JB back. Honestly, I don't think there's anything that was concerning about tonight. I do think the Hawks won. They played well. They played hard. And they found, all of those 50-50s were not more 50-50 tonight. So I think that usually, pans out to a win. So kudos to them. And, for us, it's just, a little more ammo for us, which we always need.
Amen. Yeah, I'm with you. We move on.
Cool.
Not a big deal, except in terms of the NBA Cup, which now, again, we have to win out our cup games, which is what? Cavs, Pistons, Wizards? Oh, no, Cavs, Bulls, Wizards.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Cavs will be tough. Bulls and Wizards should be winnable. If we win all three and by enough of a margin, we got a good shot at a wild card, but there's no more margin for error.
Yep. It's all right. Last year we went into it same way, right? We lose the first one in the Magic, upstart Magic team.
Yeah, you're right.
And
by a good amount.
And again, we got in, but like we had to go into that. I think it was the Hawks game. Like we did go into that game against the Hawks. Or
it was Bulls. No, it was the Bulls, and we went hack a shack on Drummond, and Joe almost got in a fight with Billy Donovan. But great stuff. Yep. All right. It is time to give out some Chuddy Chains. Since you are the guest, I am going to let you go first. Your first ever Chuddy Chain. Who would you like to give it to tonight?
Yeah, I mean, JB was obviously throughout the game, our biggest scoring threat. Obviously, D-White had a great game, but just thought like even big possessions in the fourth quarter as well. Like he's obviously a hot starter. When he's nails in the late fourth quarter, really gets us, to a different level, because obviously you expect a lot of guys to play at that level. We have good closers, we have veteran leaders, but JB for me, obviously good to see him back. He was actually on watch for me. He was a little bit of a concern. He wasn't shooting well coming in. Obviously the explosion guy with a hip injury, you always worry, but came out and just said, you can cross that one off your list. So that was good to see.
Yeah, I'm all on board with that. And I did that monster alley-oop. There's a few plays where you're like, that looks like the Jalen I know. So that was definitely probably chain. I'm going to go to the other guy you alluded to, Derek White, it seemed like, especially down the stretch, it was pretty much those two guys making all the big buckets, and would have been a heroic performance for both of them if we pulled this one out. But White making lots of big plays on both ends. Almost doing enough to get the win, so he's going to take my Chuddy Chain tonight. As I mentioned, 7 of 12 on threes, clutch after clutch after clutch. Love to see it. All right, couple stats tonight that were interesting that I have to pass along. First time the Celtics have had 2 30-point scorers, and neither one was Tatum since November of 2014. And do you care to take a guess at either of the 30-point scorers on that night against the Mavericks?
2014. Give me one. Give me the second.
One of them is still in the league.
Okay.
A journeyman, an absolute journeyman. He actually just set the record for most teammates of any NBA player all time played with.
Oh, no.
Was originally drafted kind of by the Celtics, but traded on draft night. But then came back to the Celtics. Maybe, arguably more than once.
Joe?
No.
Who?
Jeff Green. Uncle Jeff.
Jeff Green.
And the other one, Avery Bradley. So.
What a night. They win?
Yeah. So, doesn't say, unfortunately, it was a Dick Lipe tweet.
Jeff
but
Green
for anyone who's a little down about the loss tonight, just remember a decade ago we were being led by Jeff Green and Avery Bradley on offense. So
we're just excited that Avery Bradley learned how to dribble.
Two guys that I love. I might have to go pull the tape on that one. Watching him score 30 points in an NBA game sounds kind of crazy.
Jeff Green just has bad. bad juju in Celtics uni just because of the perk trade. It's like, oh man,
Yeah.
like you're not even a bad guy. I like your game. I think you fit in, but man, he's just
Not his fault. We can dive into the perk trade.
it's okay.
It's the right
so
move.
sweet that.
It didn't work out, but it was the right move. Perk was
Another
completely
shame.
unplayable in that finals against the Heat. The game had moved on. It was the right move. It didn't work out, but it was the right move. Not because of Jeff Green, I will say. But I get what you're saying.
We'll get
All right, and then the other stat I was going to say is that the Celtics entered the night second in the league in turnover percentage at just 11.8%, and that number shot up to 20.4 tonight.
Would we start at?
We were 11.8 up to 20.4. We entered the night ninth in opponents' offensive rebound percentage at 28%. Tonight it was at 45.1%. 20 turnovers, 20 offensive rebounds. So we talked a lot about some of the games where you can kind of just look at the 3-pointers and say we made 15 more threes. That's the story of the game. I don't want to boil it down too much, but I would, if I had a personal line to Dick Lipe, I'd say find how many games a team has given up 20 boards and committed 20 turnovers and won the game. And I would say that's a very short list. So,
and it didn't again.
Better days are ahead.
Didn't even feel like it was that even earned. Like they had some hustle for sure, definitely on defense, but just the offensive rebounds were just long misses. Like I felt like, oh my god, another one. So
yeah,
hey, if we're gonna lose, might as well be to a 20-20 game. So take it.
exactly. Side quest. It's just another side quest over. All right. So before we dip into around the NBA, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Nick Perino, nickperinorealestate.com, nickpiraino.com. Nick Perino Real Estate. Kid's a hell of a realtor. He was actually at the game tonight. Feel bad. He was vibing. He was enjoying it. It was his first trip to an NBA Cup. He was scouting us out, getting some boots on the ground. And I can tell you, he is devastated and probably texting me annoyed that he can't listen to this podcast on the way home. So not only do you know that you're working with one of the best in real estate, but you're working with a real Celtics fan, a real day one Chuddy head as well, and on again, off again guest host of the show. So couldn't think of a better person I'd want to shoot the shit with, talk real estate with, anything like that. You can go on his website and leave him a comment right now about the Celtics. He'll probably email you back. And even if you just want to shoot the shit with the Celtics, he will do that. So any Celtics need, just if you say, Chuddy Corner sent you, he'll do it. I think whatever you want. So shout out to the sponsor, Nick Perino. All right, let's take a little trip around the NBA. So there's a lot going on in the league. I'll start with the negative. Last time, as we were recording live, we saw Chet Holmgren limp off. We know now that he has a hip injury and he'll be out 10 to 12 weeks as the initial diagnosis. Absolutely brutal. So yeah, injury for Holmgren, for the Thunder, one of certainly the best teams in the league, one of my favorite teams to watch on a night in, night out basis. Chet, such a huge part of that. And as deep a team as they are, it's not so deep in front court. Isaiah Hartenstein, their big offseason signing, already out. No Chet. Jalen Williams, J-Will, not J-Dub, has been out too. So I don't know if you caught their first game without Chet last night, but their tallest starter was Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, their point guard at 6'6". They only had one active player who was over 6'6" on the roster last night, and it was Ousmane Dieng, who is 185 pounds. So they were basically playing with like 5 guards and wings, and just giving up a ton of height and just being like the peskiest, handsiest team ever, just basically selling out for steals, tips, deflections, and it worked. They got the win, barely over the Clippers. Fun. It's going to be fun, but I don't know if this is sustainable for 3 months or however. I guess they'll get Hartenstein back sooner, but man, tough blow to what looking like the class of the Western Conference.
Exactly, and one of the more exciting watches for sure. Like,
yeah,
you're never rooting for some of the guys that you've seen in the West for a long time. It's not hard not to like the Thunder, especially what they built,
definitely,
and whatnot. And in that game last night, I mean, SGA was just going off. But
yeah,
the fact that they can do that is great. Like the NBA is so fun in that regard. Where like that's got to be. I can't wait to see some stats around. Only having one player over 6'5". That's crazy. He plays big anyway. SGA. He's just such a
right.
I think just a floor general, not in terms of like he's running the offense. Just like if he's on the floor, he's the guy that's sort of setting the tempo for both teams. So. Sustainable, no, but like again, they found a way to just become one of the most relevant West teams last year out of nowhere. obviously with a lot of young talent, but like to have that mature, they probably will find another way, like the Hawks did tonight, to like make that come to the forefront more, and they probably will get by better than most teams ever would with losing a guy like that and having sort of these height limitations. So
Definitely.
never want to see it. Obviously, the injuries are crazy around the NBA right now. It just feels like every day you see another star go down. It's not always just 76ers; it's other guys too. So
No, it's an
not fun.
epidemic. Hate to see it. But since you brought them up, it's a great little segue into the 76ers as we saw Joel Embiid make his long-awaited debut tonight. I don't know, would you say he was returning from injury or returning from suspension?
Well, he was back 6 nights
He was
ago,
back.
right?
He was so back.
The tweet of the year, maybe
Yeah.
the decade.
He's back on Tuesday, and that was
Right.
last Tuesday. There was a week in advance. He's back tweet. Never mind the 3 games in between, but he was back tonight to lose 111-99 to the Knicks. He struggled, let's just say. He scored only 13 points, 2 of 11 from the field, only 3 rebounds. But I'm happy that he's ramped up enough to play. That makes me glad.
Yeah, I mean,
Glad that he
again,
could start his job a month late.
the guys that I'm rooting for in the the NBA Cup outside the Celtics is obviously got to start first and foremost with Joel Embiid because he deserves it. But yeah, I mean, again, need to see as much from the East as we can just to know like how how tough we're going to be again in the playoffs. Like I think last year, we played all the feisty teams, but minus the stars. So like I want to see Joel Embiid. I want to see Paul George. I want to know those guys on the other side when we beat them. So again, I know that the Knicks are tough. Sixers have a long way to go. Obviously, thinking about the Bucks have a long way to go, but those will be teams that will be there. They obviously have the weapons. Will be good to get a matchup against Joel Embiid because it feels like I've played him against and against the Sixers when they have him in a long time. It just feels that way because he's always out.
Beating these teams without Embiid, like we know we've proven enough we can beat them with Embiid, but at this point it's almost just sad. Like they're 2-8 now with this loss. They got a back-to-back tomorrow. Embiid's obviously going to sit, so that's basically 2-9. At a certain point, it's like, you can talk about, the regular season doesn't matter, just got to be healthy for the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you're not going to make the playoffs if you keep dicking around too much, and then you're going to need to waste Embiid anyway just to try to make it in. So it's a disaster. Everything in Philly seems like a disaster lately, but like you said, I'm glad to at least see him on the floor, and I hope that he's at least on the floor most of the time. I was not going to play back-to-backs or whatever, but I hope there's not like another significant chunk of missed games, and we can just get some semblance of a normal 76ers team. They're a lot more. It's a lot more fun to make fun of them when they're all healthy. Like it's not even fun to make fun of them when their guys are just out and they just absolutely blow.
Right. I mean, it'd be great if they were both there and Doc was still there. Both healthy, Doc there. Like that's.
We got Doc in Milwaukee. It's still fun. But.
Yeah, he's still close by.
Yeah. But to Embiid's pseudo rival across on the other conference, Nikola Jokic. I don't think we or really anyone maybe is talking enough about what he's doing right now and how absurd it is. He's leading the league in assists and rebounds. He's right there in scoring. He's shooting 56% on threes. He's has more triple doubles than the rest of the league combined. He's averaging a triple double pretty handily. He has 4 straight games now with a triple double that he's gotten to before the end of the third quarter. And the Nuggets are 7-3 with Aaron Gordon out, Jamal Murray missing games with a concussion, and pretty much a skeleton crew of young players who the casual NBA fan probably couldn't pick out of a lineup. This guy, the debate about who's the best player in the world is over at this point, and it makes more sense to compare him to the all-time great seasons. And right now, I don't think it's hyperbole to say that if you just take this 10 games, I'm not sure you can find many stretches of 10 games by any player in the history of the NBA that have been much better than this. It's outrageous.
It's insane. It's insane. And again, that's just the numbers. And you watch him play the game, as we talk about SGA, like he's on the court, he's the guy on the court. Like he's like the sun. The world revolves around Jokic. Yeah. He's in there. And it's just, he's so fun to watch too, because he plays that way that like basketball purists love, where he's finding the right pass. But he also plays at his own speed. So yeah, I mean, honestly, he's been the best player in the league for 3 seasons. I can't remember his first MVP season. That's where he was dominant the entire way through still. But he's so fun to watch. And again, they're obviously down a couple guys, but like they're the same team regardless. He'll always have them in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, well, and like you said, the first MVP season, I think there was still debate where it was like he won the MVP, but you're like, yeah, maybe it's voter fatigue from Giannis, and it's like there's still LeBron, there's still Curry. Then the second MVP, third MVP is like okay, but now there's no one out there from any corner who's beat. No one's saying, oh, but Embiid is actually better, or Luka or Giannis. It's like those guys just aren't even close, and it's not anything about them. It's just that Jokic somehow has even like gone to another level, and I think part of it is those guys being gone. It's like, oh, the Nuggets lost all their 3-point shooting. Okay, I'll just make 7 threes a game and shoot it. Right. Like, no big deal. Like, I got this.
60% anything is ridiculous.
I mean, pray for Jokic because he's the one guy we can't have injured or breaking down. Like, I don't know if the Nuggets can be playing him this much and relying on him this much to get through the season. I'm not sure they have any other choice with the rest of that roster, but as long as he keeps doing this, it's like must watch every night.
And he's playing, he's playing Tatum minutes. He's playing almost 40 minutes a game. It's like, he doesn't look like he's in shape to do it, but again, he's been doing this for 4 years. Like, I don't know. He probably feels fine. He probably just wants to get home after the game.
Much better shape and stuff than like people think. That's such an old narrative of like, oh, he doesn't even care. He's some fat slob. He doesn't care about basketball. Right. It's like that dude is in such amazing shape, and you see the same amount of exhausted he looks after like the first minute is how he looks in the fourth quarter, and he just doesn't break, and he just breaks everyone else's will because they're just like, there's nothing I can do against this guy. He doesn't slow down. Right. Whatever I do, he's his
eyes are everywhere. He's just literally beating around. He's seeing everything. He's one of the funner watches. Just the way he plays the game is such a purest way, and it's always like good to see. Like it's always fun to see those guys that like are playing in a team where obviously you got Jamal Murray, you got a bunch of good role players, but like who knows who those guys would be if they were on the goddamn Hornets or the Czars? Like
that's a bottom team, I think, without Jokic. Legit.
He's
never played with an all-star. Or actually, I think Westbrook is technically the first like all-star team he's even had. Not that
Messi,
but it's just crazy. So go out and appreciate. Like, don't get fatigue of watching Jokic. Appreciate what he's doing every night because it's like wow, basketball porn, truly. It's right now going on. I'm watching in Golden State. Clay's return to Golden State seemed like it was not pretty amicable. Who knows? I don't know how it could be like that bad. I know the ending was a little ugly, but come on. So it's kind of cool to see. Look like everyone in the crowd has the sailor caps on for Captain Clay.
Saw that.
I think it's fun. We'll see. I hope this is a good game and gets a little testy at the end. Would be real fun to see. But cool moment, I guess, in the NBA. You don't see a lot of stuff like that. So
worth mentioning. Yeah, you got it. I mean, Clay's got that footprint of being on one of those dynasties. And, just
likable guy.
Yeah, goes and plays the least likable guy of all time, and a running mate that isn't too likable anyway. I'm sure.
I assume you're talking about Draymond or Steph.
Oh, I'm talking about Kyrie. I'm saying now he's playing.
With yeah.
Just chose a tough crew to hang with. I don't know.
Well, yeah. That's true. But in terms of basketball fit for him and wanting to go to a team that's still good and he can help, I think solid choice. I'm a little skeptical myself of a team that's trotting out Luka, Kyrie, and Clay in the year 2024 on defense all at the same time. But that's another issue for a Mavericks podcast down the road or something that happens in the playoffs. So anything else from anything in the world of the NBA you want to mention?
No. Again, I came into this kind of wanting the cup, just as one of those things you haven't had. Like we didn't have the title for a while. This group finally got it. Sort of wanted to go Larry O'Brien, NBA Cup, back to a Larry.
And the G League. We want the treble.
We do, and I think I just heard the treble. I heard about the treble last time, so that just catch up on that. I gotta let it sink in a little bit. But now I'm thinking about it. Like, who wants the NBA Cup? Like, I hope LeBron either wins his second, he goes back-to-back NBA Cups, or as we talked about, even pre-show, our boy Joel, he deserves that ring. So
Embiid going on an epic run to win the NBA Cup and then having to be shut down for the season with an injury would be like the perfect defining highlight of his career. So there's a lot of good outcomes. We're not going to go full into that mode because again, like you said, we did the first NBA Cup game last year and we did rally to get in as I think a wild card. So it's not over. We obviously can win any game and there's no questioning we can beat 3 teams by a combined 100 points if that's what it takes. So far from over, but we certainly made it a lot harder on ourselves. So it is what it is.
We'll see.
Again, it's an opportunity for adversity. I can't wait to see how we respond to this latest challenge. And I'm sure Joe is absolutely chomping at the bit, probably foaming at the mouth at the thought of game planning for the rest of these NBA Cup games. So something exciting and
fired up.
That's what we need.
He's fired up.
Last thing, 1 to 100 chances of the Sox signing Juan Soto.
Oh man, got that. I can't remember who sent it to me today. 0. I mean, no, I can't. You can't be anything. Can't be 0 until it's final, right? 1%. I'm gonna round up to 1. You? I mean, do you think that's?
I certainly do not. I'm trying to be optimistic. Everyone's like, no, I think everyone said like the Red Sox are back. They're ready to spend again. I'll believe it when I see it. But
if we're gonna put
it's
up
nice
600 million for somebody, he's got to be a right-hander. It's Fenway Park. Like, what are we doing? Like, I know.
Sadly, I'm at the point where it's just nice that we're even like mentioned again as being linked to the top free agents. Sadly, that's a huge step in the right direction.
So do the Sox executives. So do.
I know,
so like,
but it's better than
is in the conversation.
But before the last few years, we weren't even. Now it's like at least real people are like we're linked to him. Right. We're at least gonna call him and check. Before it was like, no, he's gonna make over 100 million. I think we're out. Yeah, actually, right. We like the farm system.
Gonna put on my right. It's I mean, and I will be just as excited as I every year as I am for the Sox. Like I'm a massive spring training guy. I get fired up. Watch that first game. It's Northeastern at 2:00 on Tuesday. But no, I mean I'm just waiting to be surprised. And that's a good way. It's a good way of getting at it because I'm certainly not excited.
No, I'm excited about the youth. I'm excited about the youth movement.
I like Drake May.
Sure. Well, yeah, the Sox youth. I like the Sox young players. We're gonna be good sooner than people think. It was just nice if ownership would step up, spend some money, and get us some ready-made major league talent to go along with that youth movement. England sports all night, and I'm sure we will get more chances too, as this will definitely not be the last appearance for Joe. So thanks again, Joe. Filling in. Dugouts should be back tomorrow night as we get second night of a back-to-back, playing a familiar foe, the Brooklyn Nets. Not an NBA Cup game, though. So take a little exhale. Just a normal regular season game against the Nets. Should be lots of fun. Joe, thanks for joining us. Everybody go out there, follow Joe on Twitter. It's at JP Clancy 14.
J Clancy 141.
J Clancy 141. I was so close. Go give him a follow.
Got that hotmail vibe,
There
3-digit number.
All right, I like it. He's tweeting about sports. He's gonna ramp it up now. Be diehard Celtics tweeting. So make sure you go give him a follow. Give me a follow at King Chuddy. Follow the show at Chuddy's Corner. Follow us across all social media platforms. Subscribe to the show. Like the show. Leave a review. Tell a friend. Tell a friend. Tell a friend. Tell their friend. Tell some more friends. And we can all be friends. It should be a good time. Thanks, everyone. Back again tomorrow. Tough Celtics loss. What can you do? Joe, thanks for being on. Peace out, Chuddy Ads.
Night, Chuds.